Hello and welcome, my dear friend. If you've landed here, it's not by accident, it's alignment. Some treasures aren't lost, they're buried. Not to be discarded, not to be forgotten, but to be formed. And maybe that's why your spirit has felt tucked away lately. Shielded, quiet, almost like life dimmed your light on purpose. And if you've ever wondered why it felt like the world went silent around you while you carried something sacred inside, this message is for you. Because what felt like isolation wasn't abandonment. What felt like delay wasn't punishment. It was preservation. You see, what God placed inside you has never been ordinary. And anything that carries that much weight can't be rushed into visibility. A treasure that deep, a light that radiant must be built. It must be protected. And it must be matured in silence before the reveal. That's why you couldn't be seen too early. That's why it had to feel hidden. Because your story isn't just about showing up. It's about becoming undeniable. So before we go any further, I just want to take a moment and say this from my heart. Thank you to everyone who supported this work through Super Thanks. You have no idea how deeply it encourages me, how your generosity helps keep messages like this reaching the people who need them most. Whether you've donated once, often, or simply chosen to show up and listen, I am so grateful. And if you feel led to support today, just know this, I receive it with honor. But even if you don't, your presence here is a gift all its own. And now I want to ask you, chosen one, have you felt it? That internal stirring, that strange shift in the atmosphere around you, like something sacred is waking up after years underground. You're not imagining that. Something real is happening, and it's not just emotional, it's prophetic. What's been buried is now being revealed. What's been prepared in secret is about to speak for itself. And this time, you're not stepping out for validation. You're stepping out in full awareness of who you are. If you're ready to receive this message fully, type 777 in the comments right now, not just as a number, but as a declaration that you are in alignment with heaven's timing, that the season of hiding has served its purpose, that you are ready, not rushed, not desperate, but ready to walk in what was always yours. Let's get into it, because what God is about to reveal through you has been worth every silent year. God's chosen ones. This is why God hid you and why it's over now. The retreat. That's the part no one saw, yet it was the most sacred part of your journey. God's chosen ones. Do you remember those seasons of silence? Those quiet stretches of your life where nothing seemed to be moving, where the applause faded and the phone stopped ringing? The nights when you questioned if your calling was real, if your prayers were reaching heaven at all. The world may have forgotten you for a time, but heaven did not. Every whispered prayer, every tear shed in the solitude of your room, every raw conversation you had with God when no one else could hear, those moments were not wasted. Do you think God would allow even one sacred cry from his chosen vessels to vanish into the void? No, they were all recorded, etched into the eternal archives of heaven. The silence you endured was not punishment, it was preparation. It was not rejection, it was refinement. Have you ever wondered why the ache of invisibility felt so sharp? Why did it seem so painful to be hidden when you longed to serve, to shine, to fulfill the very purpose God placed within you? It is because that ache wasn't a sign of abandonment. It was the echo of something sacred being formed, a divine imprint taking shape within your soul. Romans 8:28 reminds us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Even in your unseen seasons, God was weaving purpose through your pain. Think of how diamonds are created, not in the open, not exposed to the world's gaze, but deep beneath the earth, under immense pressure, in absolute stillness. No human eye witnesses the transformation as carbon becomes a gem of unmatched brilliance. Can you imagine if the diamond could speak during that process, how it might cry out under the crushing weight, the unbearable heat? And yet it endures because it is becoming something that will one day shine without explanation. When a diamond is finally brought into the light, it doesn't narrate how long the process took. It simply reflects the light with silent authority. So it is with you, chosen one. The unseen preparation was the making of your radiance. Have you ever considered that God's greatest works are often formed in secret before they are revealed in glory? Look at Moses. He spent 40 years in the desert, hidden long before he led the Israelites out of Egypt. Would the Red Sea have parted if Moses had skipped that season of obscurity? And what about Joseph? sold into slavery, imprisoned unjustly, hidden from the very destiny he had dreamed of as a boy. Yet when the famine came, when the hour of elevation arrived, he was ready. Do you see how God hides what he intends to reveal in power? Isaiah 49:2 says, "He made my mouth like a sharpened sword. In the shadow of his hand, he hid me. He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in his quiver." You too were hidden in God's hand, not forgotten, but concealed until the appointed time. Now that time has come. The energy you are stepping into now is entirely different. You are not emerging to prove anything. You are not driven by the same restless hunger for validation that once consumed your thoughts. Do you feel that shift within? It is a sign that something inside you has finally settled. The frantic chase to be seen and heard has been replaced with a profound inner knowing. This is the true mark of a chosen one. You no longer need the world's applause because you carry heaven's endorsement. Consider the story of Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, hidden from the world stage, during some of the most powerful years of his life. Did that confinement diminish his calling? No, it refined it. When he emerged, he did not seek revenge or validation. He carried the authority of a man who had been transformed in the unseen places. That is the kind of presence God is birthing in you now. Can you feel it? This time, you are not stepping out as someone desperate to be seen. You are stepping forth as someone who knows exactly who they are, even if no one claps, even if no one understands your full worth yet. This inner security shifts atmospheres. It changes the spiritual climate wherever you go. Have you noticed how conversations feel different now? How your words carry more weight and your silence speaks volumes? That is because your presence is no longer powered by ego, but by essence. Philippians 1:6 encourages us, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. God did not bring you this far to leave you unfinished. Your emergence is a divine unfolding, not a performance. Think about Oprah Winfrey's journey. Before the world knew her as a media mogul, she endured rejection, abuse, and setbacks. For years she was simply a local news anchor, unseen by the masses. Yet in that hidden time, her character was forged, her voice was refined, and when the spotlight finally found her, she was not a woman chasing fame. She was a woman ready to steward influence with integrity. Is that not what God has been doing in you all along? You no longer have to raise your voice to be heard. You no longer need to shout your worth into crowded rooms. Now your presence speaks louder than your words. When you walk into a space, the atmosphere shifts, not because of external accolades, but because of internal alignment with God's purpose. Are you beginning to sense how powerful that is? The weight of divine authenticity cannot be imitated. Proverbs 18:16 declares, "A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men." Your gift, refined in secret, will now make room for you without striving, without self-promotion. Take, for example, Keanu Reeves. Known for his humility despite immense fame, he does not clamor for the spotlight. His quiet strength, forged through personal losses and unseen battles, has earned him global respect. Like Keanu, you too are being called to embody a presence that transcends noise. This is the new season, chosen one. It is not about seeking platforms. It is about walking in purpose. It is not about demanding recognition. It is about carrying revelation. The same air you once strained to occupy now welcomes your presence because you are anchored in who you are. Can you sense the invitation God is placing before you? He is not asking you to hustle for position. He is calling you to embody his positioning. And remember this, you are not stepping out to compete. You are stepping out to complete the assignment heaven has entrusted to you. This is why the hiding season had to come first. Without it, you would have mistaken applause for anointing. Now you know better. Now you understand that the greatest authority comes not from being seen, but from being sent. Look at J.K. Rowling's story. Before the Harry Potter series became a global phenomenon, she was a struggling single mother on welfare, writing in cafes. Her work was rejected multiple times, but when the appointed time came, her gift found its platform. Not through forced entry, but through divine timing. Doesn't that mirror the rhythm of your own calling? God did not hide you to withhold anything from you, chosen one. How often did you wonder if that was the case? How many nights did you ask yourself, why is everyone else moving forward while I seem to be standing still? But hear this truth now. He hid you not to punish you, not to deprive you, but to prepare you. You were not being ignored, you were being incubated. You were not disqualified, you were being distinguished. Have you ever seen an artist cover a masterpiece in progress? They shield it from premature eyes, knowing that an unfinished vision can be easily misunderstood. They protect it until every stroke is complete, until the message it carries is ready to be seen. In the same way, God Himself covered you, His masterpiece, not because you were unworthy, but because you were not yet complete. Have you considered that what was happening in your silence was more sacred than anything the world could offer you in that moment? What if your hidden season was the very act of divine love that preserved your destiny? Sometimes it takes the restraint of heaven to ensure that what God is building within you will not be destroyed by the opinions of others or the premature weight of attention. The gardener waits patiently for the right season before exposing a fragile bloom to the sun. Do you think a wise gardener would risk a tender flower in the harsh winds of winter? Of course not. Likewise, God waited for the right season to reveal you. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us, "To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven." Your hidden time was not a void, it was a season, a necessary one where roots ran deep, one where unseen growth took place, growth that your past self could not have sustained. You weren't being passed over, you were being overbuilt for something your earlier self would have crumbled under. Think about this. What if you had been given everything you wanted when you first asked? Would your heart have been ready? Would your character have been mature enough to steward it? Look at King David. Before he ever sat on the throne, he spent years tending sheep, practicing humility, learning the heart of the Father in the fields where no one applauded him. When the prophet Samuel anointed him, did David immediately rush to the palace? No, he went back to the sheep. What does that tell you? Being chosen doesn't always mean being revealed right away. God hides His kings until they are ready to wear the crown with wisdom, not pride. In the same way, you were not overlooked, you were overbuilt. Layer by layer, trial by trial, your foundation was fortified to carry a future that your former self couldn't have imagined. Isaiah 40:31 speaks to this very transformation. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Your waiting renewed you. Your hiddenness gave you wings. Look at the story of Malala Yousafzai. Before the world knew her as a Nobel laureate, she spent her childhood writing anonymously about the oppression she and other girls faced under the Taliban. Hidden, her voice was being sharpened. Silenced, her courage was being forged. When the appointed time came, her message shook the world, not because it was loud, but because it was rooted in truth and resilience. Does that sound familiar to you, chosen one? Do you now see why your quiet season was necessary? Perhaps people misunderstood your silence. Perhaps they thought your withdrawal was weakness or confusion. How often did others question your absence, not knowing that it was God who kept you set apart? Even when you couldn't find the words to explain it, something within you knew, this is not the time, I am not yet ready, God is still working. That knowing, that divine restraint was not your failure, it was your faithfulness. Psalm 27:14 exhorts us, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." Strength is often built in the waiting, not the doing. The architects of great buildings know this well. They spend far more time laying the deep foundations than erecting the visible frame. Why? Because what rises above must be supported below. The unseen groundwork determines whether the visible structure will endure. In your life, that deep, unseen work was critical. What God is calling you to carry now required that hidden preparation. Consider the journey of Albert Einstein. Before the world hailed him as a genius, Einstein worked in relative obscurity as a patent clerk. During that hidden time, he developed the theories that would later revolutionize physics. Had he been thrust into the spotlight too soon, would those ideas have matured as fully as they did? Sometimes God grants you obscurity as a gift to protect the sacred space where innovation, vision, and wisdom can fully ripen. So let me ask you this. Are you beginning to see your hidden season not as a loss but as a blessing? What if the very times you resented were the times heaven smiled upon you, knowing they were preserving your destiny? It is hard, yes, to be unseen when your spirit knows it was made to shine. But it is far worse to be seen too soon, unready, vulnerable to the winds of public opinion. Look at the life of Amy Cuddy. the social psychologist known for her research on body language and power poses. Before her groundbreaking TED Talk reached millions, she spent years recovering from a traumatic brain injury that left her struggling to speak and think clearly. In that hidden time of healing, her insights deepened. When she finally stepped onto the stage, her words carried a power forged in adversity. In your own way, your hidden season has done the same. Chosen one, you are now stepping into a time where what was built in the dark will sustain you in the light. You are not emerging as someone fragile. You are emerging fortified. The depth you now carry cannot be faked. The wisdom you now walk in cannot be taught in a textbook. It was earned through surrender, through trust, through perseverance in the quiet. James 1:4 tells us, "Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." That is what was happening while you were hidden. Maturity was being formed. Completion was being birthed. Now you lack nothing for the next assignment. Think also of the composer Ludwig van Beethoven. In his later years, though plagued by deafness and hidden from the musical society that once celebrated him, he composed some of his greatest works. The Ninth Symphony, one of the most profound pieces in music history, was created in a space of isolation and struggle. But what emerged was transcendent, a gift to the world that could only have been born from the depth of his hiddenness. Do you see, chosen one? Greatness often requires solitude. And now, chosen one, the veil is thinning. Can you feel it? That strange, almost electric clarity rising within you, the growing sense that the fog is lifting, that what once seemed like an endless maze is now giving way to unexpected openings? Have you noticed how the same doors that once appeared bolted shut are now swinging open, sometimes even before you knock? This is not coincidence. This is not random favor falling out of nowhere. This is revealing time. The season of hidden preparation is transitioning into the season of visible purpose. But do not mistake this for a loud, chaotic emergence. No, your unveiling is not coming with noise or fanfare. You are being revealed with precision, with quiet power, with the kind of presence that does not beg to be noticed, yet cannot be ignored. Have you ever wondered why the silence felt so thick for so long? Why did it seem that nothing was moving on the surface? It is because silence is not the absence of movement. It is the sound of depth being formed. Consider the roots of a mighty oak. While the tree is yet small, its roots stretch deep into the earth, unseen but essential. Without this hidden growth, the tree could never withstand the storms. Similarly, the silence in your life was not void of progress. It was depth in the making. Psalm 46:10 reminds us, "Be still and know that I am God." It is in the stillness that knowing is formed, and it is this knowing that now carries you forward. But here is a truth you must embrace. Not everyone was meant to witness your building season. Does that surprise you? Have you wondered why certain people drifted away? Why relationships faded? Why some circles no longer felt like home? It is because not everyone had the language to understand what you were carrying. Your calling was too sacred to be shaped by voices that could not perceive its depth. That is why your isolation had to be divine. If others had been allowed to define your process, they might have misnamed it, diminished it, or worse, tried to take credit for a transformation they had no part in. Consider the life of Jesus himself. Before his public ministry began, he spent 40 days in the wilderness alone, fasting, being fortified for the assignment ahead. Who witnessed that preparation? Not the crowds, not even his closest disciples. It was a divine encounter between him and the Father. In the same way, your building season was not for public consumption. It was for intimate communion, for a depth of obedience that could only be forged in the dark. Galatians 6:9 exhorts us, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Chosen one, it was your perseverance in the unseen places that prepared you for this harvest. Your obedience, not approval, built this version of you. It was forged by showing up in the dark when applause was absent and evidence seemed elusive. Have you reflected on those moments? The nights you prayed with no visible response. The days you loved God even when his presence felt distant. That kind of love, that unwavering loyalty, is what has marked you for this season of revealing. Think about the journey of Nelson Mandela. After being imprisoned for 27 years, he emerged not as a man embittered by isolation, but as a leader refined by it. His time in confinement was not wasted. It was the crucible that shaped his strength and deepened his wisdom. Had he been freed prematurely, without that inner work complete, would he have been able to lead with such grace and authority? Similarly, your hiddenness was not a setback, it was a setup. Now you carry a resilience that cannot be shaken. And when this kind of development happens, it rarely comes with loud announcements. Have you begun to notice the subtle shifts within yourself? Moments when you walk past places that once confused or entangled you, only to realize you no longer need their answers. The spaces that used to pull you in with noise and distraction now feel strangely hollow. Why is that? Because your spirit no longer craves noise. It has learned to choose peace over and over again. Colossians 3:15 declares, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you are called to peace, and be thankful." Peace has become your compass now. Not popularity, not applause, not even clarity in every moment. Just peace, God's peace, which surpasses understanding. And this peace, chosen one, has a cost. Are you prepared to embrace it, even when it costs you people, even when it costs you being misunderstood? Look at Mother Teresa's life. For decades she served the poor in the slums of Calcutta, often without recognition and sometimes amidst harsh criticism, yet she chose peace and purpose over public approval. She understood that being hidden by God was far greater than being seen by the wrong ones. In the same way, you have learned that divine covering is a higher blessing than worldly validation. Are you sensing how powerful this positioning is? You have reached a point where you no longer fear the misunderstanding of others. Their inability to grasp your process is not your responsibility. Have you realized that now, that their approval is no longer a currency you need? Because being hidden by God was not a punishment, it was a privilege, a protective grace to ensure that what He was shaping within you would not be distorted by premature exposure. Isaiah 26:3 promises, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." Your steadfastness in the hidden season has secured this peace. And now, as the veil thins, you walk with a calm authority that confounds those who once overlooked you. You are not emerging to argue your worth, you are emerging as proof that obedience produces fruit in its time. Consider the story of Malala Yousafzai once more. When the world first heard her voice, it was not because she fought for attention. It was because the truth within her could no longer be contained. Her message carried the weight of depth formed in adversity. So it is with you, chosen one. You are stepping into a season where your presence will speak louder than your promotion, where the atmosphere will shift, not because you shout, but because you show up aligned with God's timing. And here is one final truth to hold close. Even now, not everyone is meant to understand the fullness of what God has done in you. That is not your burden to carry. Release the need to be comprehended by all. Trust the one who covered you to also reveal you. And when He does, it will not be for validation's sake, but for kingdom impact. And now that the time of revealing has come, chosen one, you are not stepping out of hiding with desperation in your eyes or a plea in your voice. You are walking forward, steady, rooted, already crowned from the inside out. Can you feel that internal shift? There is a weight of glory within you now that does not seek to be recognized. It simply is. This is what makes this moment profoundly different from anything you imagined in the early years of your calling. It is no longer about being discovered, it is about being deployed. The difference is monumental. One chases the spotlight, the other carries the light, and you, dear chosen one, are carrying the light. You know now deep in your bones that when something truly precious is being formed, it remains hidden. We're not the most sacred treasures of this earth, gold, diamonds, oil, all formed beneath the surface, away from prying eyes. Is it any wonder then that God shielded you while He refined the treasure He placed within you? There is wisdom in the waiting, there is protection in the hiding, but now the season of deployment has arrived, not for your ego's sake, but for heaven's purposes. Yet let us be honest for a moment, for honesty is the doorway to deeper healing. That hidden season was far from glamorous. How often did you wish you could skip it? Did you not cry out asking why the doors would not open despite your readiness to walk through them? It felt at times like sitting in a room surrounded by doors, all slightly ajar, yet none responding to your push. The frustration was real, the loneliness was tangible, and the silence you were handed was not always a comforting hush. It was often sharp, cutting into your confidence, your clarity, your sense of calling. 1 Peter 5:10 speaks to this process. And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. The suffering was never without purpose. It was crafting strength. It was anchoring steadfastness. Yet in the thick of it, those nights weighed heavy, didn't they? Have you not had moments where your chest felt unbearably tight for reasons you could not name? Where sleep came but your spirit awoke weary? And deeper still, where the question was no longer, am I chosen? You already knew the answer, but instead, why does being chosen feel so hard? Let me tell you why. Because the higher the calling, the deeper the refinement. The greater the light, the longer the preparation. The weight of divine purpose is not carried lightly. Those whom God calls to great things must first be forged through great trials. Consider the life of Joseph again. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned, his hidden season was marked by deep injustice and isolation. Do you think there were nights in that prison where Joseph questioned God's plan, where he felt the crushing weight of a destiny delayed, and yet through every bitter hour, God was positioning him for unprecedented favor? When Joseph emerged, it was not for vindication, it was for kingdom impact. Romans 5:3-5 reminds us, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame. This hope is what has been quietly growing within you, even on the nights when all felt dark. And let us not forget the story of Helen Keller. Deaf and blind from a young age, her world was one of deep silence and darkness. How many moments must she have battled despair? Yet through patience, perseverance, and the guidance of her teacher, she learned to communicate, to understand, and ultimately to inspire millions. Her hidden years were not wasted. They were the crucible that prepared her voice to echo through generations. Similarly, your hidden years have not diminished you, they have distinguished you. Now, as the veil lifts and the deployment begins, you carry a depth that cannot be imitated. You will walk with an authority that no platform can grant, because it was earned in the hidden places. Do you sense that already? How certain situations no longer rattle you as they once did. How the opinions of others carry far less weight. How the peace within you has become your fiercest protector. Isaiah 43:2 declares, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. You have passed through deep waters, chosen one. You have walked through refining fires, and now you emerge unburned, unbowed, unwavering." Think also of Elon Musk. For years he faced repeated failures, financial ruin, and public skepticism. There were times when his vision seemed impossible, when the doors of opportunity remained stubbornly closed, yet he persisted through those hidden battles. Today, SpaceX and Tesla are not merely companies, they are testaments to the power of perseverance through obscurity. So let me ask you, are you beginning to understand why the hidden season was so hard? Why the silence was so sharp? It was not because you were forgotten. It was because God was fortifying you for a future that required more than talent. It required resilience, more than charisma. It required character, more than ambition. It required anointing. And here is a truth you must now embrace. The pain of the hidden season was not a sign that something had gone wrong. It was confirmation that something was going very right. The enemy does not attack what is not a threat. The weight you felt was the measure of the impact you are destined to make. Look at the life of Bethany Hamilton, the professional surfer who, after surviving a shark attack and losing her arm, returned to the sport she loved with even greater determination. Her hidden season of recovery and struggle could have broken her spirit. Instead, it became the proving ground for a story of triumph that has inspired countless others. Like Bethany, you have emerged not broken, but unshakable. And now, chosen one, as you step into this new season, remember this: you are not walking forward desperate to be seen. You are walking as one already crowned from the inside out. The approval of man is no longer your fuel. The applause of the crowd is no longer your craving. You move now with the quiet confidence of one who knows they were sent by heaven itself. Philippians 4:7 promises, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Let this peace be your guide. Let it anchor you when the pace of the world tries to pull you back into striving. Let it remind you that your worth was never in the doors you opened, but in the God who opened them for you. And here's the part no one talks about. The sacred burden doesn't always feel sacred, does it? Sometimes, chosen one, the spiritual weight on your shoulders didn't feel holy. It felt like abandonment. It felt like invisibility. You watched people around you be promoted, celebrated, handed opportunities you silently prayed for. You observed others walking into rooms you longed to enter, doors you had dreamed about, fasted for, stayed faithful toward, and they walked in effortlessly, sometimes with half the integrity, half the sacrifice, half the calling. And you stayed behind the curtain, still, silent, hidden. It wasn't because you weren't ready in skill. It was because God wasn't finished with your soul. Can we be honest now? There were moments you looked at heaven and thought, have I been forgotten? The loneliness wasn't poetic, it was painful. But through every ache of delay, through every unanswered prayer, something in you refused to quit. Why was that? Why didn't you walk away? It's because something far deeper than logic tethered you to your assignment. You didn't keep showing up because it made sense. You kept showing up because your spirit knew something your emotions couldn't yet articulate. Something within you recognized that formation happens in the shadows, not on stages. That obedience matters more than optics. That destiny isn't built on highlight reels. It's forged in silence, in faithfulness, in consistency when no one claps. 2 Corinthians 4:17 speaks to this hidden struggle. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. What you were carrying in private wasn't pointless. It was producing weight, glory, power. But it took time for your soul to detach from the need to be seen, for your identity to detach from performance and anchor itself in presence. That's what was really happening behind the scenes, wasn't it? Your soul slowly stopped begging for validation. Your spirit began learning how to hold tension without breaking, how to walk through uncertainty without spiraling into self-doubt. Do you remember those inner battles? The nights when your faith whispered louder than your fears? That was the transformation, the unglamorous part, the holy development that no one photographs, no one writes about, but God never overlooks. Consider the journey of Fred Rogers. Mr. Rogers. For years he quietly labored behind the scenes, developing a children's program rooted in empathy, emotional intelligence and spiritual grounding. He wasn't chasing viral fame or applause. His legacy was built in the consistency of quiet kindness. His power came not from being flashy, but from being real. That's what you've been becoming. Someone anchored, not animated. Someone whose power is their presence, not their volume. Psalm 66:10-12 declares, "For you, O God, tested us. You refined us like silver. We went through fire and water, but you brought us to a place of abundance, the fire of invisibility, the waters of delay. These weren't meant to destroy you, they were meant to refine you. And now, can you feel it? That shift isn't just in your mind anymore. It's in your atmosphere, it's in your walk, it's in your words. Something is shifting. You can't always explain it, but you know it's real. The weight of your words has changed. People are listening to you differently. They lean in when you speak, even when you say little. You've stopped chasing deep conversations, and yet depth finds you. Small talk doesn't stick anymore. The room shifts before you even say a word. And have you noticed? People look at you a second longer. They speak with a touch more reverence. They can't always name it, but they feel it. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. Job 23:10 gives language to your process, but he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. You are coming forth now, not as someone who's desperate to shine, but as someone who is undeniably gold. And gold doesn't make announcements, it simply proves its value by being what it is. Think about Maya Angelou. Her poetry and wisdom came from a place of profound silence and pain. Before the world knew her name, she was a young girl who chose not to speak for years. But out of that silence, her voice emerged with unmatched authority. Her words carried a resonance that only comes from someone who has endured, evolved, and elevated. Like Maya, your voice now carries frequency. It's not just communication, it's vibration. Are you beginning to see the beauty in what felt like delay? That spiritual tension didn't crush you, it calibrated you. While others were seeking platforms, you were being prepared for purpose. While others were begging to be heard, you were learning the value of saying only what the Spirit prompts. And now you've become someone whose presence is prophetic, whose energy rearranges a room before you even speak. Why? Because God finally allowed the inner alignment to reach the surface. 1 Samuel 16:7 gives us this reminder. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And when your heart has been made right, when your motives have been refined, when your character has been tested, and your intentions purified, God elevates in a way no man can stop. And this elevation isn't external first, it's internal. You don't walk into rooms seeking recognition anymore. You walk in with revelation. Let's take a moment to reflect on someone like Chadwick Boseman. Before the world knew him as Black Panther, he faced career rejection, private battles with illness, and long seasons of being unseen. And yet, when he showed up on screen, there was a weight to his presence that you could feel. Because he wasn't just acting, he was living with purpose, aware that his time and voice were sacred. You carry that now too, a presence born of struggle, shaped in silence, revealed in power. So I ask you, chosen one, can you see now why it all had to unfold the way it did? Why the silence wasn't neglect but nourishment? Why the weight you carried in secret had to go unrecognized for a season, so that your identity could detach from applause and root itself in authenticity? Because that's who you are now. You don't need to be seen to feel secure. You don't need to be praised to feel powerful. You don't need the room to understand you in order to be faithful to the God who does. Isaiah 61 brings us to this declaration: Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. That glory is not loud, it is not showy, it is steady, radiant, and unmistakable, and it's already upon you. Now the energy around you bends before you even speak. People can't quite explain what it is, but they feel the shift. They feel the peace you carry. They feel the authority. They sense the fire. And it's not something you fabricated. It's something God formed. You're not trying to be magnetic, chosen one. You've simply become honest. And that kind of spiritual honesty radiates with a frequency all its own. Have you noticed how you no longer need to perform, persuade, or posture to draw people near? There is something about radical authenticity, about standing fully as who God created you to be, that attracts exactly what heaven intends for your life. You're not forcing favor anymore. You're recognizing it. You're not chasing the light. You've become light. And now, you can finally admit a deeper truth you've long sensed in your spirit, but rarely spoke aloud. It wasn't just that God was hiding you. It was that He was protecting your story until it was strong enough to walk without needing to explain itself. Do you see the beauty in that? How many times during your hidden season did you wrestle with the question, why can't I just tell my story now? Why can't I step out yet? The answer was simple, though painful, because the story wasn't ready, because the strength wasn't sealed, because the wounds still needed to become wisdom. God was not denying you visibility out of cruelty. He was shielding you out of kindness. Proverbs 4:23 reminds us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Before He could trust you to carry this story into rooms of influence, He had to first make sure your heart could hold it with humility, grace, and truth. Let's be honest, earlier versions of you would have tried to explain everything, to justify your delay, to defend your process. You would have been tempted to tell the full story, hoping others would validate your pain or your patience. But now you no longer feel the need to explain. Why? Because the story itself has matured. It no longer needs a narrator. It simply lives, breathes, and speaks through the way you carry yourself. Look at Nelson Mandela once again. After emerging from 27 years of imprisonment, he didn't step into the spotlight with bitterness or an endless recounting of his suffering. His presence alone told the story. His grace told the story. His leadership told the story. You are stepping into a similar space now. The story God wrote in the shadows is about to walk in the light, not through words, but through witness. 2 Timothy 2:21 gives us this assurance. Those who cleanse themselves from the latter will be instruments for special purposes, made holy, useful to the master, and prepared to do any good work. Your preparation was not in vain. Every unseen moment of cleansing, every silent battle of surrender, every hidden sacrifice has prepared you to now be useful for God's purposes, not your own promotion. And here's where spiritual honesty changes everything. You no longer pretend to be someone you're not. You don't curate a version of yourself for public consumption. You stand as a vessel, whole, real, refined. That level of transparency is rare in this world, which is why it carries such an undeniable frequency. People can feel when someone is walking in alignment, not performance. They can sense when favor is resting, not forced. Consider the journey of Viola Davis. She didn't rise to fame overnight. For years, she faced rejection and roles that diminished her depth. But she remained authentic, refusing to compromise her integrity for quick success. And when her moment came, she didn't have to perform. She simply embodied the weight of her story. Like Viola, you are now stepping into spaces where your authenticity is your authority. Matthew 5:16 reminds us, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." The light you now carry is not fabricated, it is formed, and because of that it shines without striving. You're no longer chasing opportunities with desperation, you're discerning them with peace. Have you noticed that? How your spirit no longer leaps at every open door, because you now understand that not every open door is a God door, and you are committed to only walking through the ones aligned with your assignment. Think about the life of Malala Yousafzai again. After surviving an assassination attempt, she did not return to the public eye in a spirit of vengeance or with a rehearsed narrative. She returned grounded in truth, authenticity, and a clear sense of mission. Her story was no longer about survival, it was about purpose. You too are walking into your purpose season, not to prove your worth, but to fulfill your assignment. So I ask you, chosen one, can you now see the profound gift in the protection God placed over your life? Do you understand why He kept certain doors closed, not to punish you, but to preserve the purity of your story? Because a premature unveiling would have diluted the power of what He was writing through you. And now the story is strong enough. It doesn't need to beg for understanding. It simply needs to be lived. Isaiah 30:18 declares, "Yet the Lord longs to be gracious to you, therefore He will rise up to show you compassion, for the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for Him." Your waiting was not wasted. It was blessed. It was strategic. And now, the justice of God is unfolding, not in loud displays, but in the quiet elevation of your life. Look also at the story of Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks. Raised in poverty, he carried a deep understanding of hardship. When he finally rose to lead a global company, he did so with a profound sense of empathy and authenticity, because his story had been forged in the fire, not handed to him. And that is what gave him the capacity to lead with vision and compassion. Your capacity has now been forged as well. You're not walking forward empty. You are walking forward full of wisdom, full of grace, full of discernment, full of favor that is recognized, not forced. That story, chosen one, is you. You are the living testimony now, not merely of breakthrough, but of becoming. You are the healed parts that still remember the pain but no longer live in it. You carry the wisdom of wounds that have been transformed, not erased. Do you feel it in your spirit? The calm that flows from you now isn't some artificial performance. It isn't the product of pretending everything is perfect. It is a hard-won peace, fought for, wrestled through, cultivated in the silence where no one clapped for your endurance. You learned to sit still in a room full of scattered energy, offering grace without uttering a word. Your very presence steadies the space, not because you try to, but because that is who you've become. And now it's starting to show. Can you sense it? The very people who once didn't look twice are beginning to notice. They can feel the weight in your silence, the substance in your stillness. But it's not because you've suddenly grown mysterious or cultivated an aura of intentional distance. It's because you have finally released the need to be understood. You no longer base your worth on whether people get you. That detachment is the real glow-up. It's not about being seen. It's about being free from needing to be seen. John 3:8 gives language to this transformation. The wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. That is you now, unpredictable in the best way, unboxed, uncontainable, flowing as the Spirit leads, untethered from external validation, and that freedom carries an undeniable energy. Do you remember the days when your heart whispered, "When will someone see what I carry?" The longing was real, the ache of invisibility cut deep, But now you've realized something greater. The right ones already do, and those who haven't noticed yet, they soon will, without you striving to prove anything. Because when God makes something undeniable, it doesn't need to compete for attention. It becomes the attention not through flash or force, but through frequency. It's felt deeply by every spirit that encounters it. Look at the journey of Morgan Freeman. For years he worked in relative obscurity, taking small roles while quietly refining his craft. He wasn't clamoring for fame or chasing shortcuts. When his moment came, the weight of his presence commanded attention, not because he demanded it, but because he embodied it. His voice, his demeanor, his authenticity could not be ignored. You, chosen one, are walking that same path now. You're becoming the kind of presence that can't be reduced to a caption or a compliment. 1 Peter 2:9 speaks to this truth. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Your life is now declaring his light, not through loud declarations, but through the quiet radiance of your transformation. And yes, some people will be confused. Have you noticed it already? The glances, the questions, the subtle shifts in how others engage with you. They'll wonder, when did you change? What happened? How did you get here? But you will know the truth. You didn't arrive overnight. You were refined layer by layer, moment by moment, in the unseen places where only God witnessed your becoming. Think about Simone Biles. After reaching the pinnacle of athletic success, she chose to step away, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. She understood that true strength isn't performing for applause, it's honoring what your spirit needs. And when she returned, her presence spoke louder than her routines. People could sense the depth, the resilience, the hard-earned wholeness. Likewise, chosen one, your story now carries that kind of resonance. You're not afraid of success anymore. You're not walking on eggshells, anxious that it might slip away. You know what it cost. You know what it healed. And most importantly, you know who made it happen. Deuteronomy 31:6 anchors you in this assurance. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. You walk forward now with a courage born not of ego, but of encounter. You know the one who refined you will sustain you. You no longer shrink under the weight of opportunity. You embrace it not with entitlement, but with gratitude and readiness. And let us be clear, this is not your peak. Far from it. This is the first clear echo of what's been planted in silence for years. The first visible ripple of roots that have run deep beneath the surface. You're not growing anymore, you're rising. Without apology, without explanation, without rush. Because the process has taught you that real growth respects divine timing. You know now that what God unveils, he also upholds. Consider the life of Rick Warren, author of The Purpose-Driven Life. Long before his book sold millions, he faithfully served his local church, focusing on depth over visibility. And when the time came, his message became a global movement, not through flashy marketing, but through the undeniable weight of its truth. Similarly, your life is becoming a movement, not in branding, but in being. Psalm 92:12-14 declares, "The righteous will flourish like a palm tree. They will grow like a cedar of Lebanon, planted in the house of the Lord. They will flourish in the courts of our God. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green." That is your portion now, flourishing not in fleeting moments, but in sustained impact, bearing fruit not because you chased it, but because you became it. So, chosen one, are you ready to fully embrace this season? To walk in the clarity that this is not your arrival, but your unveiling. To release the last remnants of striving and simply embody the presence God has formed within you. Because here's the final truth you must carry with you. Every quiet season was never wasted. Every hidden moment was holy. Your story was never late, only protected. And now finally, it is being revealed. And as it rises, remember this, you owe no apology for the pace of your process. You owe no explanation for the strength you now carry. What you embody can't be packaged into sound bites or distilled into shallow compliments. It is deeper than that. It is divine, and those who are meant to encounter it will feel it deeply without you having to say a word. So walk boldly, stand freely, shine authentically. For this is the season where what was sown in silence now speaks, and the echo will be undeniable. Beloved chosen one, now you see it clearly. This is why God hid you, and why it's over now. The hiding was never about holding you back. It was about building you up, about protecting what was still forming, about refining your faith, your identity, your resilience, until you no longer needed visibility to feel valid, until you no longer required understanding to remain unwavering, until your presence could carry the power of your process without a word needing to be spoken. And now the season of hiding has come to its rightful close, not because you demanded it, but because heaven declared it, not because you were desperate to be seen, but because you became undeniable. You stand now as the living embodiment of a truth the enemy hoped you'd never discover, that what God hides he will reveal in his perfect timing, and that no force in hell or earth can stop a move of God that is fully matured. So walk forward, not with arrogance but with anchored authority. Carry the weight of your story with grace. Let your life now be the evidence of everything heaven cultivated in secret. You are not the same person who once questioned if you were forgotten. You are the one who now understands that being hidden by God is one of the highest honors, and that being revealed by Him is one of the greatest responsibilities. And as you rise, remember this: you owe no apology for your timing. You owe no explanation for your transformation. Those who are meant to walk with you will sense the weight of what you carry. Those who are meant to witness your story will see the fingerprints of God all over it. And those who are not meant to understand, release them in love and walk on. Your life now is a living testimony that silence is never wasted, that waiting seasons are woven with wisdom, that the glow-up isn't in visibility, but in detachment from needing it, and that when God says, now all of creation will respond. Thank you so much for taking this journey with me. Truly your time, your attention, your presence here means more than you know. If this message resonated with your spirit today, if you felt yourself in these words, please consider supporting this work through Super Thanks. Your support helps me continue creating and sharing these messages. But whether you give or not, please hear this. I am so deeply grateful just to have you here. Your engagement, your listening heart, your willingness to walk this journey matters so much. There is no pressure, only appreciation. And before we close, I want to speak a blessing over you, chosen one. May every hidden seed planted in the soil of your silence now bloom in fullness. May the peace you fought so hard to cultivate guard your heart in this new season of revealing. May favor follow you where striving once tried to lead you. May your life speak louder than words and your story draw the right eyes at the right time for the right reasons. May you walk in joy, in boldness, in authenticity, and may you never forget who authored your becoming. If this message spoke to you, I invite you, please like this video, share it with someone who may need this encouragement today, and subscribe so we can stay connected on this journey. There is so much more to come, and I would love to walk it with you. See you there. And until next time, walk boldly, walk freely, walk as one fully chosen. It is your time. The hiding is over.